Testing Anthony and Peter, testing. Cool.
All right, and we're recording. So thanks everyone for joining for number 54, our 54th edition of the Service Fabric Community Q&A. A quick reminder that this call is being recorded, and we will share the recording to the Azure Connection programs and to the YouTube channel. Today's call is not under NDA. We have Mike, Peter, and Anthony, and others from the team who will be presenting for us today. So team, whenever you're ready, go ahead, take it away.
Cool. Thank you everyone for joining us. Today, we're going to kick off today and briefly talk about the GA release of the Service Fabric Managed Clusters. I'm going to drop off video because my computer can't handle doing both things at once. So let me go and flip it off, and then I'll go ahead and talk about what I was going to say here. So let me share my screen. So we announced the GA release of the Service Fabric Managed Clusters. We talked about this probably at least 2 or 3 times now in this community call as we've gone through the initial preview and preview refresh and now GA. So a lot of people, most people that join this call regularly have seen this before, but I just want to touch on the main difference this product brings compared to what we call classic or just SFRP. So the traditional model, again, just a real quick rehash, you were responsible for setting up all these independent resources, wiring them, and then we came and wired them together. And then in SFMC or Service Fabric Managed Clusters, we now can encapsulate a lot of this work through one RP, through one endpoint. So you go request us to go do all the work, and we go do all the work. And I won't bore you with any more details on this. And this is not, I'm not going to go to a slide deck, but this is on our page here. I'll link this in our chat because I think it's just to make sure people are aware of it here. So that's our main docs entry page. So what does this really mean in practical terms? What does this translate to? So I'm going to show some portal experiences to really hit this home, hopefully. So essentially what this triggers here, and I got a few scenarios set up here. So what we can do is essentially, and I've set up some things here beforehand. So I initially set up a cluster here with 2 node types, and I initially set up a disk size of 128 on my node type 2, and did some of this prep, and so it's updating. So all I did is I went in, selected change disk size, and I can demonstrate this on another one, selected 256, clicked OK, apply, and then it'll just do it. You don't have to go to the Vmss, you don't have to go change your OS SKU that has a bigger disk size on it and go through all that rigmarole. You literally just have this one little thing you can go do now and get very specific at where you need the resource increase. So that you can see here now it's updating. This will take a little bit. It might be done even while I'm talking here. If it does, I'll be glad to show that. So another case here, say you have a web, so system services and an app tier and a web tier. You go in and you're like, I need to, today all my stuff is on Windows 2016. And before changing an OS image SKU, it was complicated, I'll put it that way. Now, and you can see here, so I started with web and app, both on 2016 just this morning. I went through this, started this morning, and I already changed this to 2019. So how did I do that? How hard or how simple is that now, I should say? Let's just find out. So I go in here, I'm like, hey, I'm ready to go upgrade my app tier to 2019 also. I've done my testing in my dev cluster, right? Now here, I'm ready to go do in production. You go here, here's my OS image. I just want to flip it to 2019, click apply, and I can't do it because of quota. I knew it was going to be a problem. But you click apply, and then it just does it. So, and then essentially in place, I have now swapped to 2019. And you'll see it'll go UD by UD, and this walked, I unfortunately finished right before this started, but this walked through from 0, 1 to 2, and now this whole web tier is on 2019. And please, if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt. Adding a node type. So you can see there's a notion of like, we don't really mention Vmss here. We still are running on top of VM scale sets. We really focus on, well, what is the service fabric thing that you're trying to do? I want to go add a node type. Well, of course, quota is going to block me here. So what I did here is I started with only one, and I came in and I clicked add. I want to come in and add a node type for my app. And all you do is say, hey, my app 2, you select your OS image, disk size, click add. And if I click add, you'll see it won't block me because of quota right now. but then it comes in and sweeps in and goes, I will go create this, and that's all you have to do. So again, this is all enabled via encapsulation. If you've done a lot of these steps before in classic clusters, you'll recognize this is a lot simpler. Effectively, it's 1 or 2 clicks overall versus many steps required in the past, and a lot of like very careful handling of iteration of order. So another thing here, scaling. So because of this, I'll touch on the disk thing again. So we have separated out the disk from the OS image SKU. And because of that, you are now able to independently configure. So you can independently configure size, which I mentioned already, but you're also able to, on premium SSD, independently select a given performance tier you need. So if you need to scale up or even scale down potentially, and you need a burst of workloads for a certain, whatever your scenario is, you can set that for a given node type right here. You select it, you click OK, and go ahead and click apply. And it's that simple. So I just wanted to really nail that and get that message clear. Like, this is the simplicity this brings. And there's one other scenario, which is very basic right now, but it does work. And so if you've ever added load balancing rules, hopefully most of you have, if you ever use Service Fabric, I have set up some basic ideas here. So a lot of people do like 443 in the front end for internet facing things. We have a basic interface here, an experience where you can just click add, select your basics here and click apply. And then it'll do it and then go talk to the networking backend to go establish those new load balancer rules. Again, trying to keep you on this one single pane of glass as much as possible. And that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about right now. The last thing I will mention, so this comes up a lot, especially for internal parties, but for external parties, you do get asked sometimes. What about AZ spanning? So, how do I make a resilient cluster out of the box, as default, or just how do I go about doing that? So with SFMC, we do support a fully spanned cluster now. So what that means is across in a given region where there are 3 availability zones, Azure availability zones, you can now deploy a Service Fabric cluster. And we have an example template. I'll click around too much here. I can link in the chat if anyone's interested. And then this will in turn go spin up a 3-zone span cluster. And this cluster, it's not really unique because we support spanning. We do support spanning in Classic also. But what we do here is we support less nodes as a minimum. So you can see here in this span cluster, 6 nodes for the primary and 3 for the secondary. So that's substantially less than probably what you're used to seeing if you use this in the past. This has been 15 as a minimum for Classic currently. So this may be of substantial interest for some folks. And so this works otherwise and looks very similar to any other span cluster you can see. So there's AZ1, AZ2, AZ3. And this really enables those scenarios so you can be fully resilient to a zonal outage. So, any one of these zones can go down and this cluster will still keep running and servicing your traffic. So I just want to take a few minutes, and just go through all that real quick. I don't want to bore you all to death with a bunch of live demos. And you can see I already had some live demo demons with Quota. And then, that's that. So any questions on any of that right now? Otherwise, I can briefly touch on what's kind of coming up next.
Yeah, I see there's a couple of questions in the chat. Mike, can you see it?
Yes, I can now. Let me unshare my. Oh, it's easier sometimes. Assuming you're.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll go from the bottom up. Any chance managed cluster would support cross-region replication? This has come up. We have a few customers, both internal and external, who have asked this in the past. So we are thinking about it. One of the challenges here today is that a lot of services like Q Vault that we depend on, or even VM scale set, is regional. So trying to build so what we call a global cluster out of regional services is challenging, but it's definitely on our radar because we get customer feedback is that, hey, how do we go about doing this? So it's on our radar, like how do we solve it, but we don't have a solution today. I think that's on that one. The other one is like any chance to manage cluster. Okay, now before that was what's your vision of what everything that falls under the manage umbrella? I think our goal here, I think as Mike has talked, is that we want to minimize how much time customers spend on managing the cluster. Our goal here is that as much as possible, customers should be focused on their applications and services. So it's a journey that we are starting with the GA of SFMC, and then with time, like as we do sort of more and more updates here, is that take more and more of the management of the cluster, and make that a responsibility of SFMC. As an example, is that like just projecting way into the future, is that, hey, can there be a time where customer doesn't even specify the SKU or specify how many VMs? They just says like, hey, I have this application and then I want n instances of this. How many VMs are required that Service Fabric can manage on its own, just as a flavor, but that is sort of into the future. So the goal is that, hey, take as much as of the cluster management responsibilities, let Service Fabric do that through either directly through Service Fabric runtime or through the RP, and let customers focus more and more on the applications and services aspect. There's one question here. Assuming you're a developer, I'm not following the question from Wit.
Well, I guess essentially just saying, assuming the stuff that doesn't work on Linux, is it as easy to potentially say I want to jump from Windows 2016 to Ubuntu?
So you're saying that I think we don't, so with Service Fabric managed clusters, we don't support Linux today, but that is in our sort of plan for the next semester.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's on our plan. We just like given everything we needed to do, we just didn't have time to get the Linux story ready. But I think the way at least we are building it today is that it should be relatively, there is some work, but we don't see any blockers that should prevent us from getting the Linux story done.
Cool. Yeah, you got to start somewhere. That's cool.
Yes. And then is the last one here is that, is there support for installing extensions on the underlying scale set? Yes, I think like, I think we have some samples up in the sort of the template gallery. You can install extensions as you do today. Like there is sort of affordance in the, we don't have the affordance in the portal as yet. We were looking at that, but we couldn't get it done in time. But through the template, yes, you can install other extensions.
So if you fit all your modifying resources, anything particular, Whit, or just like what I was demoing, you mean?
Yeah, like say I want more disks, for example. So if I just add that via ARM after the fact, can I continue to still manage it to do the other stuff? Will it retain those changes? Or, once I go down that road, am I, out of luck? I kind of, walked away from the management of it.
So going back to what I was demoing earlier, the span cluster, for instance, I did deploy through ARM and I configured through ARM. And then I didn't actually show clicking through too much on the config side, but yes, you can go through a config on the portal side or make edits through portal later.
Cool.
So yes, essentially it will get reflected on the portal if you make changes through ARM.
So I just want to clarify, if you bypass SRP, go ahead directly editing your stuff on the VM skill set, the next deploy the VM, the change on the VM skill will be overwritten next time you deploy anything on your cluster.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's not going to retain any of the changes that I've made.
No, correct.
Well, I think I want to clarify is that, like, if you go talk directly to SFMC to make changes, those would be retained. But if you make changes directly to the underlying resource like VM scale set, those will get overwritten. So I think essentially sort of our strong recommendation here is that don't go and change the underlying resources like say VM scale sets directly. Always go through SFMC.
Yes, so that's why we call this measure model. However, if you have a thing that you regularly need to, for example, I do need 2 manager disks, please get the feedback to us because we need to expose this through the manager cluster model. So you'll be able to declare, for example, a node type with 2 disks instead of having you to create a node type and then go ahead bypassing the subtype RP and directly to the Vmss to add some extra stuff. Those extra stuff, please let us know so we can model that in the way so that it will wrap up in the manager cluster definition, so you don't have to do that. If you have any scenarios, please let us know. Yeah, like additional data disk. We know that we have. Yeah.
Sure. I guess like other scenarios. So say like I don't know, front door has a premium SKU. You can hook up private links, so you don't have to expose the public IPs of your load balancers.
I see.
Would you be able to set up one of those things that's a completely independent resource, all done through the portal, even though it doesn't have a direct tie to the managed cluster?
Currently, you can't. Currently, the managed cluster setup is pretty. What do you call that? It's basically it's set up in just that you don't have the flexibility to basically come in and mess with like adding. But I think if you are talking about adding the private link, the coming in feature for bring your VNet might be able to work for you. So you are talking about the VNet setup, right? You're talking about adding the private links. Yeah, that might work for you. Yeah.
And eventually, I guess I set up a managed cluster the other day just to give it a shot. And I guess internal load balancers are on the roadmap too, right?
Correct. Yes.
So I mean that'd solve it anyway.
Yeah, I think the key here, sort of the key point is that if essentially these sort of requests fall into 2 categories, is that hey, I need to make changes, go request that from SFMC, then it will be retained, and then the management pane will work. If there's like, hey, I need something that I need to change the underlying resource, which here primarily is VM scale set, storage, or network related. If we don't support it today, let us know, and then we will add it to the list and deliver it in the future.
Okay, great, fair enough.
And I think what I'll add is that the bring your own VNet or the customer specifying that the IP address that they want to attach to a load balancer, that's one of the top things we will be adding in the next refresh.
Henry, can we add user assigned managed identity to the Vmss? Yeah, let me link the doc.
Yes, it is supported. I think Mike will add the link to the doc, but yes, you can have a user assigned managed identity, and then we will pass it through to the VM scale set.
Peter dumped it. Both user and system assigned, yeah. And I'll just preface another question. We'd also ask another question, hey, can I deploy secrets? And we also support deploying secrets to Vmss version secrets if you need.
Yeah, I still need to read about that key vault extension. I guess for especially for stuff like DNS service and whatnot, will that continue to be something you can just check a box and potentially opt into and opt out of?
Yes. I did demo that. I can flip and show you real quick, actually on one of the live clusters. It is literally, where is that at? Add-on services. Right here, if
Cool.
you can see my screen, okay.
Yeah.
Including backup resource service, yeah.
I guess will that include, was it reverse proxy as well?
We're talking about how to support that. We don't currently support reverse proxy.
Okay.
Yeah, we're figuring out what to do there. The initial verbal guidance is probably, or the team thinks we'll probably lean towards using YARP.
Yeah.
And maybe fork there and not carry forward the old reverse proxy.
Sure.
But we'll figure that out. Yeah.
That could actually be really cool if you even just had like a drop down to support multiple things, or just say here's the recommended approach or something.
Yeah, totally hear you there.
I guess where's the best place to put feature requests? Just the standard Service Fabric repo?
Yeah, the GitHub repo, and then we'll triage it to the right project. So if you want to just call out SFMC or Service Fabric Managed Clusters, and then we'll move it to the right bucket.
Okay.
I think I also posted a link to the GitHub project repo where we're tracking what we are working on and what is coming. So create a GitHub request and we can triage it, and then we can keep updating the roadmap, project roadmap in GitHub. Any other questions? Anybody have explored the preview or SFMC? Any? Feel free to download and explore the GA version and continue to give us feedback. So Mike, do you have any other scenarios to showcase, or we are done and we can just open up to regular Q&A?
Yes, one more question, if I could, when you're setting up all the various resources, if you put something together via the Azure VM thing, it pops up, here's a price estimate for it. Will the managed cluster, set up itself as you're making changes? Say, something, you've selected these disks. We have this many instances under the hood. You should expect your costs to go up by X.
That's an excellent feedback. We hadn't thought about it that way, but we will definitely. I think, Mike, we should add it to the like sort of to provide a similar experience as you do with, say, if you are provisioning a VM scale set today.
Cool.
So we have it today. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Will the VM scale sets also support auto scaling?
I think for auto scaling, we are looking. That's one of the, along with the networking, that's one of the next things we want to go build a seamless solution for. We don't have it today, but it's coming in the next few months.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. So
because
if you also have scenarios, for example, there's a certain metrics that you want to auto scale based on, please also let us know. I think we should also look into that. What metrics customers are using to do the. Yeah. For example, are you doing auto scale based on built-in metrics like CPU or disk, or you actually emit your own metrics on the Vmss and do auto scale based on your own metrics? Please let us know.
I mean,
those.
I'd say it varies by node type. What applications I've got relegated to which node types, but that would be something really cool to. I mean, just under the overarching managed umbrella to just be able to say, I can deploy whatever application I want to this thing, and I don't know, it's watching all the different possible stats, CPU, disk, memory, whatever. And when that just hits over 95% for anything, just automatically scale and send out a health event or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on our list, as I said, but because today the auto scale experience is not the best.
Yes.
And then it just gets sort of complicated because of how the resources are sort of connected together. But it's on our sort of radar for the next, say, few months to deliver on an auto scale experience.
Great.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that with the GA, it is available in all public cloud regions. And then we will be sort of working on enabling into what we call national clouds in the coming weeks.
I'm sorry, what was that last thing you said?
I said we will be deploying to say what we call national clouds.
Oh, yeah, I gotcha.
Yes, the sovereign clouds in the coming weeks. Because essentially the way sort of similar to SFRP, this is a sort of a global service with the sort of what we call as a fundamental service on which other services, even internal, can take a dependency on as a region gets ready. So essentially a region, like moving forward, a region would not be considered ready until this service is available. Tyler has a question as her reverse proxy and extension. I think we like extensions we support. So Tyler, as I think Mike mentioned, is that right now we are looking at sort of various solutions like, hey, do we integrate with reverse proxy, or is it YARP? So for you, is it that, hey, no, we need the reverse proxy that SF supports, or as long as there is a reverse proxy that should satisfy your requirements?
Yeah, I think as long as a solution exists, we would be pretty happy. Right now, we use the existing solution, and
Sure.
but if something was available, I'm sure we would be happy to switch to it.
Yeah, I think right now, I think as Mike mentioned, we are leaning heavily towards YARP. We just need to sort of run through some of the scenarios and make sure that sort of it works, and then we'll sort of update and announce it and update documentation.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks.
I saw a question from Henry. Henry put a link in chat. I don't know if that answers your question, Henry. How do image updates work, and can we control when they're applied? So short answer is yes. See if the documentation doesn't answer your question, please let me know. But we do fully support auto OS updates, and you can still do manual. Okay, looks like you got plus, or someone else plus one on maybe on the same question. Okay. Thank you for all the questions, by the way, everyone. So really good. Anything else on SFMC, or otherwise we can just open it up for Service Fabric in general? Anything else, Service Fabric in general? I don't think so. Comes on.
I think there's a question on anything planned for, like, do you have any insights to provide on 8.1? Is Sukanya here? Might you have any high-level interesting features or scenarios that we can share?
I would defer to Kanya if she knows. I'm trying to think if there's public side.
I think one interesting thing that would be coming in 8.1 is supporting liveness and readiness probes for non-containerized applications. So being able to know when the process has started, even if it's not in a containerized environment.
Let me take this help or this question around the customer feedback portal. Like, so in general, let me approach it this way. The support and troubleshooting pages have been merged. So we've been working on the docs to try to streamline and simplify and make sure the messaging is clear. So let me drop this. I know I'm just dropping links like crazy in chat, which doesn't help recording. But please see the Service Fabric support page. It is now, and I'll just share my screen again so people can see on the recording what I'm talking about. We have this, we've moved this to a high level and now merged two previous pages that were used to be separate. So right here, it's on the high, it's right there in the TOC now. It's not buried, it used to be buried under resources. And now there is a unified page that talks about, and hopefully is clearer, where to go for what. So if this doesn't help, please still let us know. I'm not directly answering your question, but this is now what our guidance is overall. So post a question in the Q&A, GitHub for feature requests, Stack Overflow. This is a great resource, right, for historical questions. You can refer to other people's questions over time, and then just feedback. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, so is that just saying, you know, if it's a small feature, GitHub issue, if it's a large issue, Service Fabric, or I'm sorry, the community thing?
Yeah, I'm kind of wavering, sorry. Like, we're still figuring this out to make this better, because I'm still not sure if we want all these avenues for that input, right? So Nathan, you're kind of having initial feedback on there, but we're trying to clean this up, so we may still drop one or two of these as we work through this. I just want to highlight we're trying to work on this. If you guys have a preference, please let us know too, as just customers. Like, is one easier to use than the other? That's really important too, right? Because we want to make sure we're getting the input, and not necessarily care so much where it is make sure we get it out of you and get the requests.
I'd personally prefer GitHub between the two. Now, I guess as we're moving to all the development happening in the open, it kind of makes sense to keep everything in one place instead of here's this other websites that it's kind of hard to have conversations in it for clarification.
So I'm hearing maybe next to this, yeah.
I think, but like, yeah, for Service Fabric, it's since we have an open source presence, like we'll continue to use the GitHub. These are new avenues we are exploring, and we are trying to see how to streamline all the channels. But for now, yeah, let's, because we have made changes in the way we collect feedback in GitHub, feature requests versus bugs separately, and also trying to have a project for Service Fabric separately and manage clusters. So let's continue to assume for now use GitHub. Are you looking for anything like outside? Like, what is your motivation for your earlier question? Like, is there any gaps in the way you're sending feedback, or?
I was just repeating the other guy's question.
Okay.
I guess there's a whole pile of things on there that do have a lot of votes that have just been under review for eons. That it just is it worth copying those things over to GitHub issues? Is that site live? They may be under review
that's
at
exactly
one
my
point,
point. Yeah, that's right. because there are quite a few good ideas over there with quite a lot of words on them, and they're just hanging there indefinitely for years. And yeah, should we bother to spend our time upvoting those or submitting new ones at all?
Are you referring to a different forum, the user voice feedback? Are you referring to GitHub here?
No, sorry, referring to still that old customer feedback portal.
Okay.
That's why I ask, right? So many sources for you to look for ideas, and so many places for us to put them on, and then, yeah, just wanted some clarity on that.
Okay, we'll take that feedback and we can provide more clarity.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah. For now, as I said, like just going back to the earlier statement, like use the GitHub repo. We'll look at other channels, the feedback channels, and see provide the recommendation.
I see one more. I don't know if anyone here can take it, but any plans to continue development of the SF programming model, specifically the actors? Is there, sorry, I'm missing, I scrolled. Is there something in particular, like an issue or a feature request you're referring to, or just is that a really general question? Sorry, Maxim, or mispronounce your name?
Yeah, yeah, sorry, it's 5-ish in the morning for me, so I still putting my thoughts together. Yeah, 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 I had some particular question. I can't yeah, recall any, but so let's read this question in general. Because yeah, well, interesting things. It still feels like and stateless and stateful services have some potential to be further developed. Actors model is very good, but comparing to other models like Orleans, or development is going on in the upper areas. It's quite interesting features over there. Also, I was going to say something else, but well, again, I hear on the previous calls you mentioned like remoting V3 and so on, and would be interesting to hear about those plans as well.
So I can try and answer the first part of your question, which is, are we planning to do any additional development in Service Fabric programming model? And the answer to that is we're always doing that. We're constantly evolving the programming model, not just for actors, for other aspects of it as well. But as Mike said, if there is anything particular that you're looking forward to, just feel free to reach out to us, send us a mail, and we'll be happy to kind of take it up from there. Or if you have a feature request that you would definitely like to see in it, as Nandini already mentioned, just feel free to raise a ask at the GitHub site, and we will definitely review that as well.
Yeah, thanks. I actually have one I can ask right now if you don't mind. For example, a built-in some pops up into the Service Fabric cluster, right? You feels like infrastructure has everything for that, and then it would be also very convenient for services to talk to each other in a simple asynchronous way, just by sending notifications or something like that, similar to what actors do, but in a wider scale, which is available for stateless services as well, kind of that.
So I think that's a very interesting point that you brought up. So can you give me a little bit more, or maybe we can, I can ask this offline, but can you give me a little bit more context on where you would prefer to use synchronous calls over async calls?
No, sorry, I'm not talking about synchronous. I'm more interested in asynchronous.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I misheard that. So you're looking for asynchronous calls for what again?
Notifications, sending some broadcast events to notify the services about changes. Right now I need to raise an endpoint, and but if it goes through the service fabric, let's say system service, which can act as a broker of the messages, we can broadcast it easily without leveraging any other infrastructure, this kind of things. Because it feels like you already, I can get notification about you cluster changes, like when node goes up and down or endpoints going up and down. This kind of events we could customize, in from our application perspective, has our own events.
I see. So you're looking for customization of notification, is it?
Yeah. And
Did I get that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's an interesting feedback, definitely. We would like to consider that. So if you could raise like a GitHub feedback for that, we'll definitely review that.
Okay, thanks, will do.
Thank you.
I guess kind of just to that though, having raised several actor-related issues on the GitHub repo, I guess they've all kind of gone and disappeared into the black hole of internal planning, which understandable. But I guess will we only hear about whether or not they've been accepted and there is work being done on them when they, if they just suddenly show up in a feature release, or is there some efforts to more engage if those are accepted ideas? I'll just use it like a simple one. I requested that actor timers. Right now when you set it, you have to wait for it to fire, or you have to completely remove it altogether. You can't simply change the timer after the fact.
So I don't know if either Peter, Mike, or Nandini would like to pick up the first part of the question, but I can probably just touch upon it a little bit. So we don't ignore any feedback that comes to us. We get feedback from multiple forums, multiple platforms. GitHub is just one aspect of it. We review all of them. Sometimes it's a huge list that we have to review through, and it takes us a while to go through it. As far as feature requests are concerned, if we do pick up on it, we do send out notifications, in forums like these, where we talk to people and say, yes, this is coming up. If there was a feature which is picked up, and we are, aware of a GitHub uh, feature request or the GitHub link from where this request also came up, then we do kind of touch back to that person and say, yes, and we are looking into this, we are working on this. And of course, when the feature gets released, we do add it to the release notes as well, and those are pretty publicly available as well. So to answer your question, I do apologize if it comes out like we are ignoring them, but we definitely are
no.
not. We have so many channels that we review, and we pick up, feature requests and bug fix requests and, suggestions from so many platforms that we have to kind of consolidate, review, prioritize, and go through the list one step at a time. So it occasionally does come out sounding like we're really not looking into it, but
No.
I assure you we are.
Definitely, yeah, definitely don't want to give that impression. I guess I'm just saying, like to the previous question, development of the programming model in general. I can't think of any major changes that have happened with actors in at least a couple of years, right? So Orleans is doing some neat stuff with them. I'm recently just all psyched about the concept of databases as actors, but I mean, just any So yes, I filed a whole pile of issues around this thing just to see, is this something there's any interest in? And just like the timer update I linked, they kind of bounced around between some tags. They're added for internal work items, and yep, silence. So just asking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just speculating here. I haven't looked at those items in particular to be able to comment upon them. But I guess when we review them, it kind of does get lost in the prioritization. But if there is a particular one out of that list that you definitely want us to focus on, just feel free to ping us again on that and just, call it out explicitly so that we can kind of take a second look at it.
Sure. I mean, I guess that's why I'm most excited about the open source thing, is just being able to see more of what is it that y'all are working on right off the bat, how that ties to the issues that have been reported or through your other channels, and then also potentially just be able to jump in myself.
Yeah, sounds good.
So thanks Sukanya for clarifying all the questions, and as I think she covered all, and thanks for all the great questions. But I know, I think we are trying to, as I said, like, make sure we are diligent in providing updates on the feature request or the feedback we are getting. But there are too many channels, and we want to focus on other high priority, like especially SFMC, based on different feedbacks that we got from different customers. The major pain points were related to the cluster management. So we were investing in getting the GA milestone met this semester. Please continue to give feedback on the new offerings and the enhancements or the gaps. We will we are doing all the work in-house, but unfortunately we cannot expose or we cannot integrate a lot of things publicly. So we'll be more proactive in providing updates either in our blog post or in GitHub on what's coming. And one other request is, I think I've been repeating this request every community call. We would like to learn more about your workloads, production workloads, via apps or whole using Service Fabric. So please feel free to sign up if you're interested in sharing more details, and I can follow up and send you a detailed survey. It should not take like more than 5 minutes. So that will definitely help with our product planning, or driving our future strategy for the product and for future offerings. So I'll appreciate if you can take this link that I shared is only to sign up for the survey who are interested, and whoever sign up, like, I will send a follow link to the survey. I know some of them have already responded. Thanks to all the people who have signed up and also filled the survey. It's the data that you provide is really useful, and we would like to get more insights into other customer scenarios as well. So if you can take some time to sign up in the interest survey form that I've shared, I'll follow up and provide a detailed survey. We have 5 minutes. Any other questions, feedback, suggestions? What do you like about the Service Fabric GA? I've already seen some good feedback there. And thanks for all the good feedback on SFMC.
If nothing else, we can wrap it up.
All right, sounds good. So folks, if any other questions, go ahead and interrupt. 2 more quick links that we dropped in the chat, in addition to the one about your workloads from the Service Fabric team. One is for if you have any other topic ideas that you want presented during these webcasts, go ahead and answer that first survey. Let us know what topics you want to hear about. And the second, of course, is the same as the end of every webcast. Go ahead and leave your feedback on this particular session. Let us know what went well and what you want to hear more about. If nothing else, thanks everyone for joining, and Service Fabric team, I'll hand it back to you to close us out.
Yeah, thanks to all my team members for taking the time and coming and presenting. And we are all super excited about this GE milestone. And thanks for all the great questions. Continue to explore our enhancements and offerings and give feedback to help us improve the experiences. Mike, do you have anything else to add?
No, just thank you again broadly for all the great feedback. This has been really helpful. So hopefully you guys enjoy the product.
Thank you for speaking with us today.
All right. Thanks, team, and thanks everyone for joining.
Have a great day. Bye.